welcome to the Voices of St. Boniface. I'm Dick Beardmore, and we're here this afternoon to have a conversation with Father Tim Brewer. Father Tim was with us here at St. Boniface quite a while ago, and it's a true pleasure to have him back to share with us his journey in faith.
Thank you.
It's great to have you here. In my notes, I start talking very personally about when Paulette and I come back here to St. Boniface periodically during the year, and we come back primarily because St. Boniface and Lunenburg is our home. This is where our family is. This is where our memories are. And it's wonderful to be having this conversation today because this brings back I think we just said it, the golden days of our memories. You, Father Tim, and those days will always be a part of our Lunenburg memories and our family. We'll never forget the first time that you came out on the altar at a 10 o'clock Mass, and we were chatting away about who's the boy who was standing up there at the altar.
Well, I was actually only 7, so
right,
quite understandable.
Right. And still today we wonder about these priests who are coming out to us who are 12 years old. So, could you share with us a bit of how you were brought to us? How you came to us here at St. Boniface? What did you say, 40 years ago, 41 years ago?
41 years ago, yeah. I was ordained in 1979, and I had a short stay in another parish, and it was not a good experience. Perhaps if I had stayed there, I would not be a priest today. But I was lucky because I had really good friends who told me that it was not a good place for me and that I really needed to ask out of there. And so I can remember going to the personnel director at the time and him asking me, well, what type of place would you like to go to? And I said, well, I really don't know what type of place I'd like to go to, but I'd like to have a good pastor like Father Ed Moran. And I had known Ed from the days when he was at St. Paul's Cathedral, part of a great staff there. And I knew what a great priest he was, and I knew he was fairly new at St. Boniface, that he was young and he was enthusiastic, but I was really saying, like Father Ed Moran. I had no idea that St. Boniface was even going to be a possibility. When the personnel director said to me, well, there's an opening there, would you like to go there? I said, I'd be delighted, but I have no idea what Lunenburg is. So I came here really as a new priest. I was very young. I thought I knew a lot, but I really didn't know too much. And being here at St. Boniface with Father Ed Moran and Sister Charlene O'Leary, they were both young, they were enthusiastic, they had a Vatican II vision of what parish is supposed to be. And so it was really an ideal place. Father Ed Moran was a great mentor, and he was also a wonderful priest and a good person and a lot of fun. And I remember my experience at St. Boniface is that it was a lot of fun. Those were the days before I was a pastor, so I didn't have any of the responsibilities. If there was a problem, I could go say, you need to talk to the pastor.
We were both young in those days, and we did have a good time.
We had really good times. And Father Ed was a very, very social person, and it was a different age. People stuck around more than they do today. I can remember during his first year, before I got here, he had visited every house in the parish, and so he really knew the parish and really became a family. And as I said, Ed was really very social, and so we very often went out to people's homes, and that's really where I got to know people. It was a great place to learn, and I really credit the people of St. Boniface for teaching me how to be a priest, and for Father Moran teaching me both how to be a priest and looking forward to the day when I would be a pastor. And Sister Charlene was a great catechist, and at that time, everything was a challenge to me because it was all new, and I was deathly afraid I had no idea how to relate to children. And I would just watch her, and I credit, where I am in life today because I learned so much from her that no longer, to me, it's a part of who I am dealing with kids, but it was that I had great mentors and a great mentoring community. This really was an alive kind of place. So it was a good, it modeled for me what a parish could be. And I've taken that along when I was an associate and later when I became pastor.
You're right. I think as a parish, at the time, we were ready. We were open for leadership. Mm-hmm. It had been a tough few years before Father Moran got here. Mm-hmm. And as he developed his team, you came on, Sister Charlene came on, and the parish team in general, thinking about the development of the choir at the time, Eileen Oliva, Beth Buckley, and the parish leadership, the lay leadership, and Phil Robillard and Frank Sincata, and the old guard.
Yeah. I think they were raring to go, and it was the right atmosphere, and
we were chomping at the bit.
Yeah, and Ed was ready to go. He had been an associate for 18 years, I believe, and he couldn't wait to be a pastor. Ed, there was very little time between Ed thinking of something and Ed doing something.
Right.
And so he would tire me out with his energy. So I was glad when he went on his days off because he could relax a little, because he was very, 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 very active. Yeah,
he was.
He was on the roof. He was everywhere.
Oh, tell me. Yeah. Tell me. And we get the calls. It was a great time. So can you be more specific about one happening in your time here that was a joyous time?
Well, there were a lot of very joyous times. Ed, he had a very, his bringing people together as family. So there were a lot of social things and a lot of fun times and a lot of funny moments. I can remember one time when we had a St. Patrick's party. Mm-hmm. And we had the Jug of Punch, which is an Irish group who sings and plays and whatever. And Ed was not aware of, the downstairs hall was packed. Ed was not aware of that one of the pastors before him, in order to save money, when the bathrooms went out of commission, he would put a sign on that they're out of order. So as a result, he didn't, clean the septic system. And so right in the middle of this St. Patrick's Day party, all of a sudden, out of the men's room and the women's room, it's filling with whatever comes out of men's and women's room. Mm-hmm. The amazing thing about the people of St. Boniface, it didn't make any difference to them.
We still partied that night, didn't we?
We did. It never.
I remember being on that floor with you and Sister Charlene and having mops. And the Jug of Punch is still singing.
And it just, I don't know where people went to the bathroom, but, but in those times, the Landrys, Irene.
The Landrys, right?
The Landrys, and they were very much into social things. I can remember having Halloween parties and dressing up as a Rubik's Cube and as a nun. It was just a lot. It was a lot of fun, and Ed was a good spirit. As I said,
I can still hear his laugh.
Ed was very close to the Robelats, and so we would go to the Robelats a lot. And June Robelat was famous for her Spanish coffee, which was always served after we had a couple of other libations. And all I know is that every time we went to the Robelats, somehow I got scheduled for the 8 o'clock Mass in the morning.
Smart man he was.
In the first year that I was here, he asked me to do the midnight Mass. And I was greatly honored, because usually the pastor does the midnight Mass. So it's coming to midnight, and I'm figuring that he's going to come over and kind of celebrate. No, Father Moran. Well, what happened is I think he had gone to the Robelats, and he had come back probably about 11 o'clock and took a little nap, and didn't wake up until the cars were leaving. He came in as I was cleaning up at the church, startled that he had missed midnight Mass. So.
And the Robelards were notorious.
I think it was also just a great spirit. Like I said, everything was kind of new for me, and they provided the mentorship to be able to do things scared, so that you got used to doing things. I have an episode that I went roller skating with the kids and at Roll On America, and then ended up breaking my ankle and ending up in the hospital for 6 days. That's part of, and during that time, I had never driven a Standard, and Carol Chiskowitz had taught me how to drive a Standard in the parking lot. And then I went down to Ken Starr, and I had to really know how to do it coming out of the parking lot onto Route 12. So it was a time of great adventure.
I understand that Carol's back in the area.
I have not.
That's what I just recently heard.
Well, I'm sure
It'd be lovely to see her.
Yeah.
So we obviously had a wonderful time. I mean, we really did. Socially, and liturgically. The parish grew liturgically through those years. As evidenced by, when you walked in today, you mentioned the windows, the first renovation. Prior to the first renovation, we had not clear glass, but frosted glass windows and green walls, and no, it wasn't even green walls. It was blonde.
It was blonde, right? It was the natural blonde.
Blonde and plywood.
And plywood, yes. Yeah.
And Father Moran and the team created something new.
Yeah.
And I remember that evening, that first evening, celebration, the new blessing, the new.
All those sconces on the wall for the consecration of that altar.
Right. And that was a wonderful evening, wonderful celebration.
I think Ed was dreaming of doing that. He was in the seminary at the time of Vatican II, and he was excited to be able to do some of the things that he had been inspired by Vatican II, and he wanted to do the best job they can. In liturgy, also in terms, he had a degree in religious education, so religious education was very, very important to him. Having a competent religious education coordinator that was going to, use all to teach as it should be taught. Right,
and her teachers were trained.
They were trained.
Right.
And they better do what?
Absolutely. My kids still talk about Sister Charlene, and they're in their 40s. It was funny. Yes, and just very quickly, because it was something that was very dear to my heart, the development of the choir with Beth Buckley
Oh, yeah.
and Eileen Oliva. It was a wonderful group of people to be with and to work with and to create
Right.
art with. We were creating art music,
Right.
and it was great.
Yeah. And I think, in those days, because there's a lot happening here at St. Boniface, it was attractive to other people.
Right. Right.
Uh,
We drew from around the region. It was fun to be here, but there were also those times that were trying.
Sure.
Maybe you'd like to share your feelings and perhaps a happening or two during that time when we were all being tested.
Yeah, I mean, I was changed. My life was changed to this day because of Mike Membrino. I knew Mike as a kid growing up here, and he sat in the last row with his family. And the summer that I left St. Boniface, that fall he had a football accident and became paralyzed from the neck down. And it was a real, and I was in Worcester at the time, so his dad had called me and asked if I could come over, and I was just blown away because he's on one of those striker frames,
Sure.
facing down, and his father was, and I had to get down underneath to see him. And from that moment, he had a positive attitude, and he came close to death several times, and I was always leery, and everybody else, to go in and to see him, and he always boosted our spirits. And so I had a real faith crisis because I knew people were praying around the corner, around the clock for Mike, and it came from such a beautiful family and faith-filled, and I just couldn't understand it. And I remember going to my spiritual director and saying, I just can't understand it. We've been praying for a miracle. And he said to me, you keep talking about how positive Mike is, how he boosts everyone else's spirit. Does that make sense? And then I realized
That's the miracle.
that was the miracle, and that it helped me to understand the mysterious ways of God. But he and some other young people along the way have inspired me to this day. Unfortunately, Mike died a couple of years ago, and I celebrated his funeral. But he is still a person that truly impacted my life. And of course, being new to priesthood, you're not used to dealing with people at the moment of death, and people in crisis in the hospital, and dealing with families who lost one. So that was a whole learning experience for me, and being able to deal with those things so that so that I could handle them, I could handle it emotionally myself, while still being able to minister to families.
Mike and his family brought so much to this community just because of their example.
Yeah.
Primarily their example.
I mean, I would go, I was just so inspired. I'd go to the hospital different times a day, and I'd see Bob Membrino there, going over helping other families that were in intensive care, or helping the nurses and the doctor. Helping the staff, mopping the floor. It was just, that's really the joy of being a priest. The 40-something years that I've had so many wonderful experiences of seeing people filled with the Spirit of God that just do amazing things and serve in amazing ways. And weather very, very difficult situations when I say I could never do that. They taught me how to have faith.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Thanks. That was wonderful. So we might say that St. Boniface was truly your beginning.
It was.
And now you're at St. Mary's. And lots of stuff happened in between. And we know that St. Mary's is quite a success.
Well,
And that's primarily due to you and
Well,
what your parish
it's a
is.
good marriage.
Right. And talk to us a bit about the intervening years.
Okay. After leaving here, I was at 5 years in West Boston at Our Lady of Good Counsel, which was another great small town experience. It was especially nice for me because my sister and brother-in-law lived in the parish, and my nieces and nephews were very young, and so I gave them their first communion and was there in their formative years. But I was there with Father Burke, who was also a wonderful, inspiring person and had been an inspiration to Father Moran as well. Had a great experience there, and then went on to be campus minister at Worcester State College and University as it is today, and that was a great learning experience for me. In a lot of ways, you know, it really helped me to come further out of my shell because you had to be proactive or nothing would happen. So, you know, I'm no longer shy, but I was shy at one point. And I can remember going into the cafeteria and knowing nobody and saying, you know, wanting to turn around and saying, nothing's going to happen unless I take a chance and sit down with people. But it was truly a great experience for me. You know, I made so many wonderful relationships that continue to this day. It helped me to see the church in a whole different light because I was not working within the church. I was working for the church, but I was working, you know, I was working at the college, and so I was a peer, and that was a great experience. It was also helped me, you know, to see things in a different light. When you're in the parish all the time and you look out at and you say, why aren't they here, or why can't they do this, that sort of thing, and it's always their problem. But when you work with other lay people and you're outside, you know, you start to hear their stories and to realize that, you know, there's another way of looking at it too. And there's also our need, you know, to be able to minister to them and their needs. I knew that I was there for 7 years. It was a great experience. I knew that I wasn't going to be able to stay there forever because, you know, they were going to make me pastor. And I was very lucky because I had some say in where I went, because at that time they had they went and visited the parish, and they had a parish meeting, and then they put the parishes up for you could apply for them. Father Mike Rose, once again, Mike Rose was a very good friend of mine, called me that night and he said, you know, I really think this place Our Lady Lake is the right place for you. He says, because he said, if I didn't like where I was so much, or if I was there longer, I would not be calling you because I would be applying. So it worked out. I went to Our Lady Lake. Even though I had been in Lunenburg, I really didn't know much about Our Lady Lake. But being you know, on the border with St. Boniface, I got to reconnect with a lot of people that I knew from some of my days here at St. Boniface. And I'd always dreamed about becoming pastor of St. Boniface, and that never happened. But you know, I got to know a lot of people and, you know, experience them as pastor of Our Lady Lake. I was there for 15 years.
Was it 15?
15. They have 15 wonderful years. We did a lot of hard work. We built a parish center. We developed a lot of ministries, and I never dreamt that I would be able to leave because I loved it there, and I was very, very invested. In fact, Bishop wanted me to move after 13 years, and it was just not the right time or the right place. And another year passed, and he said to me again, you know, are you ready to move? And I said, well, the right place, and if I have some say in who's going to take my place. And again, you know, this time the bishop said, well, where would you think of going? I said, well, someplace like St Mary's in Jefferson. He says, well, you know, pastors getting older, you know, it may be time for him to retire, so would you be open to that? I said, like I said, if you can, you know, if you can guarantee me that I have some say in who the pastor is, I would consider it. And I had mentioned Father Dennis O'Brien, who did become my successor and did a wonderful job. But it was so amazing, you know, God has planned because, like I said, I never dreamt that I could leave St. Boniface or leave it behind, but it was the right time, and I have never looked back. It's been a great fit for me. You know, it's very much home, and I couldn't be happier. You know, in being there. It's amazing. So this is how God works. When I applied to go to Ale Lake, Father Andy Remelad was also thinking of applying to go to Ale Lake or St. Mary's in Jefferson. And I was interested in both of them. And so we went to dinner, and we decided we were not going to apply against each other. And so I became pastor at Ale Lake, he became pastor at St. Mary's in Jefferson. I had never had any idea that I would ever be pastor at St. Mary's in Jefferson. But, you know, a lot of times in life, you know, you don't get what you first, you know, what your choice, but God gives you what you know. God has a wonderful way of working the pieces together. So you say back, oh my gosh, I could never have put the pieces together in the way God did. You know? So I have been very blessed from the beginning until today.
Thanks. Those of us who worked with you and who had the good fortune of being at St. Boniface and Our Lady of the Lake and St. Mary's are blessed because of you.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
And I just want to say thank you. Thank you for being here, and thank you for sharing all of this with us. It was a beautiful afternoon.
You're very welcome. It's always a joy for me to come back to St. Boniface because it has such happy memories for me.
Great. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all.